Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Mr. Baseball. At least that's the reputation that he is getting around at the moment. But Derek Vandygriff joins us to talk about Ole Miss, and just full disclosure to everybody, we're recording this during the Arkansas State game, so we're not going to talk too much about it, but we are going to talk about Hawaii, and we are going to look ahead to High Point. How you doing, Derek?
Man, not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Honest question, did you stay up Friday night?
I got in bed at 4:00 Saturday morning. Stayed up for every bit of it.
Okay, I'll tell you the same thing I told Josh Guest. The game ended at about 3:30 Central Time, which is about 4:30 Eastern Time. I woke up at 5:10 Eastern Time. So I literally woke up from a nice, refreshing night of sleep 40 minutes after the game ended.
Yeah, it was definitely a long one. The longest night I've had in a really long time. I'm 36, almost 37 now, and you'd probably have to go back to at least my mid-20s somewhere to find me up that late. But yeah, I ended up making it. Had to take 2 naps before the game. One when I got home from work, and then I laid down again at like 9, got me a power nap in. So I was able to make it with very little problems.
Yeah, and all of that's interesting. We can talk about this, but after the fact, because that's the case. I think this game with Hawaii, it was a dumb setup. I really wish they wouldn't have done it. They did, but since they did, we have to grade this performance on a curve. And I'm not saying that Ole Miss is going to make a regional. I'm not saying that they're going to Omaha. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm saying that you can't literally tell anything from this Hawaii series, because whenever you fly west and flying to Hawaii west, you're looking at 15 hours on your legs. They ran out of legs, and all of a sudden, Hawaii was winning ball games. Errors were being committed. Walks were happening because the team was completely fatigued.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, the baseball season starts with High Point.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely a long travel. One you don't see a whole lot going from Mississippi to Hawaii. 5 time zones, I think it is. But that's kind of what we scheduled, though. So that's on us. We played the games that are ahead of us. It didn't go the way we wanted it to, so no excuses there. You obviously wanted to win at least 3, playing a 4-game set. But I thought there were some really good signs out of this baseball club, all things considered, right? I mean, everything you kind of just laid out with the fatigue and all that, I'm sure that played a part of it. But I thought we, in certain spots, played pretty well. And I think the bullpen, which I know me and you talked a good bit about last time I was on, was a real bright spot for us. The guys that I think that are going to come in and really pitch some high leverage innings, some important innings for us, I think they came in and they performed pretty well. So that was nice to see, at least.
Yeah, Austin Simmons put an inning in, got 2 strikeouts. Yep. He performed really well. Everybody's thinking about that. I'm pretty fired up. But all in all, that's my opinion on the Hawaii season. Like I said, whether you go to a regional or not, nothing is coming from that Hawaii game that's going to matter one way or another.
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking off that, there are obviously things you look at, you want to improve at. Looking back on that 4-game set against Hawaii, right? Starting pitching's got to go a little bit deeper into games. Now, that it was by design that they didn't go deep this week or this past weekend against Hawaii, right? They were on pitch counts. You look down the line, you're going to see a theme with our starting pitchers from this past weekend. Quinn went 75 pitches, Gunnar Dennis 78, Saunier 69, Maddox 67. They weren't going to overextend them this weekend in Hawaii, it being the first weekend. But more than anything, they got to cut down on walks, right? You can't be putting people on base, giving them free base runners. That's one thing that was a real problem for the starters in particular, bled over into the bullpen in a couple of cases, even though I think the bullpen was really strong overall outside of a couple of guys. So, but yeah, got to cut down on walks, got to get deeper into games. The concerning part, which goes back to the walks, when you walk so many people, your pitch count goes up. But out of those innings, Quinn only goes 3 1/3 on 75 pitches. Dennis gets through 4 on 78, and so on and so forth. So they got to be a little more efficient. Cutting down on the walks, filling up the strike zone will solve a lot of that for us, though.
Yeah, and really interesting stuff. We can just put a bow on the Hawaii series. Like I said, High Point is what everybody should be thinking about right now. High Point is the next big series.
Yeah.
What do you want to expect? What do you expect to see against High Point?
Hopefully, I see a lot less walks. Like that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. You want to pitch a lot cleaner, not give them extra base runners to where you're putting yourself in a bind. But on top of that, you've got to field better, right? We ended up with 8 errors on the weekend, 6 on Sunday alone in Hawaii. So that's something that I didn't think will be an issue. I still don't think it will be. Sunday, everything just fell apart on us, and all the gaudy bad numbers that you can take from that Hawaii series, a lot of them ended up happening on Sunday, and the errors were a part of that. So you got to clean a lot, field a lot cleaner. You've got to pitch a lot better as far as keeping your walks down. We've got guys with electric stuff. We struck out a ton of batters this past weekend. So the stuff is there. Keep it in the strike zone. Trust it. And then you got to start hitting, right? The last 2 games of that Hawaii series, really the last 3, we didn't hit particularly well. In that second one, ended up scoring 5 runs, I think it was, which is enough to get the win. But got to hit a lot better, though. There's a ton of talent on this team, guys that know they're better than what they produced this past weekend. And I think getting back home to Swayze and getting their first taste of baseball in Oxford, Mississippi is going to be the recipe they need to get back on track. So those are things I'm looking for. Quit walking guys, play a lot cleaner in the field, and for guys, Trayson Hughes was one that he was incredible defensively. We talked about that during our preview. That he was going to be really good out there in right field, and he made 2 incredible plays for us. And one of them almost didn't count because the umpire was blind, apparently, going down the first baseline, didn't see him catch a ball and turn and do a double play there. But then he comes back Saturday, makes another really good play, according to the radio call. At least weren't able to watch it. But look, he's going to end up hitting. He's hit well over 300 every year. He's been in Division I baseball there with Mercer, so it's going to end up translating. He's going to get going. And then, Andrew Fisher is going to end up getting going. Leger was a guy I was really impressed with this past weekend. That guy just puts the bat on the ball every single plate appearance. We talked about it in your preview. I've talked about it on my show all throughout the offseason. Leger's going to put the bat on the ball and see what happens. And if you do that enough time, really good things are going to happen. And that was kind of weekend Ethan had. So I think him and Hill at the top of the lineup, I think that's the route we need to go with this lineup construction and kind of figure it out from there. But you're only going to know that when we get more at bats, play more games, and let these guys get their feet wet. This is a ton of new guys on this team, right? And we talked about that a ton as well. So more games we play, more at bats. I think the offense is going to come around. And, so now it's on the pitching staff, starters in particular, cut down on walks, give us some innings, and don't tax the bullpen too much, even though I think it's really deep and really dynamic.
All right. Tell everybody what they need to think of when it comes to High Point. Tell everybody what they need to know.
Yeah, this is, a team not very unlike the Hawaii team we played this past weekend. It's a team with a ton of experience. They got seniors, all the way up to 6th-year seniors on this roster. Guys that have played a ton of baseball in Division I, whether it be at High Point or transferred in over the offseason. They return their entire weekend rotation. They have Gus Hughes. He's a guy that pitched on Saturday this past weekend. He's the projected Big South pitcher of the year, according to D1 Baseball. A guy with a really electric curveball, just a big swing and miss pitch for him. So that's one thing that our hitters need to watch out for. I assume he'll pitch on Saturday again. That way he'll be on regular rest. But it's a rotation that has a ton of seniors on it. All 3 guys starting on the weekend are seniors. They've pitched a ton. And then you go into the bullpen, and it's the same thing. They have a really dynamic closer that can run it up into the upper 90s. maybe the best closer in the Big South as well. So they're a team that has a lot of talent on the pitching staff. One fun nugget I did find about them, one of their senior pitchers, he comes out of the bullpen. He's a starting option as well, is Braden Holiday. That's Roy Holiday's son, the late great MLB Hall of Famer. So he'll be in town this weekend. Maybe we'll get to see him and see what he looks like. But a team that's really going to pitch the ball, though, that's what they're going to lean on. They didn't have the year they were expecting last year, but they've got all of these guys coming back, and not even on the pitching staff, but in the lineup as well. They're absolutely loaded with seniors. You look out for outfielder Brett Halt. He's a guy that's just a table setter. He's going to hit lead off for him. He's a power speed guy. A 943 OPS, 11 home runs, 13 steals last year. Just an incredible player that can do a little bit of everything. Really good defensive player as well. And Cale Chatham over there at third base is another returning senior that can really hit the ball. Hit 315 with a 964 OPS. And they've got other guys too. Their number 3 hitter is another senior that hit like 330 for them last year. It's just guys up and down the lineup that's played, once again, a ton of Division I baseball. And as we saw this past weekend, that's something you can't overlook, because guys that have that much experience aren't going to be surprised or overwhelmed by too much. They've probably seen just about everything at this point, even though they're out there playing in High Point. But you know, High Point goes around, they play upper tier Division I teams all the time, especially in the non-conference slate. So it's something that these guys have seen before. They're not going to be overwhelmed. So we got to go out there and, you know, put our best foot forward and play some good, clean baseball, and we should be okay this weekend. But that's the key, being clean.
Yeah, and like I said, we're recording this while I'm watching the game. I'm not impressed with this midweek guy. I'm just not.
Yeah, and see, that's Mason Morris. That's a guy from right down the road from me here in Tupelo, Mississippi. A guy that I was excited about coming into this year. Pitched well in Hawaii. Come in, had 2 2/3, 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 Ks for us on Friday night. You know, and there's another strike out there. Hopefully that'll get him going. But yeah, as we're sitting here recording this, we're down 2-0 in the second. So hopefully Mason can settle in, give us a little bit of give us a few innings here and not tax that bullpen too much going into the weekend. But I do think Mason is a guy that's really going to help this team once he settles in.
Yeah, and it's early. It's cold. Well, I don't know if is it cold in Mississippi?
No, man. We got 71 degrees here today. First 70 degrees I've seen in a while. Yeah, it's really nice here today. So we can't use the cold weather as an excuse this early on like we normally could in the past.
Down here where I am in Central Florida, like I woke up, it was 43 degrees and the high got up like 61. So,
okay.
You beat me.
Yeah, it was I think 37 or 38 when I woke up this morning, but it warmed up quick. Now, it's going to be a beautiful weekend for baseball, though. If any of y'all out there are around the Oxford area, this would be a great weekend to go out there and watch the Rebels play. You're going to get sunny, partly sunny skies all 3 days, and the lowest temperature is like 64 or something like that. So it's going to be beautiful weather for baseball. So get out and enjoy it this weekend for the first home weekend series. I know this is technically the home opener, but you know how we feel about weekend baseball. That's really when it gets cranked up when you're at home for the first weekend.
Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your daily listen, your daily podcast. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm telling you, pretty awesome stuff. Baseball season's here. We just got to get rolling. So, Derek, thank you very much for stopping by, and we'll talk to you next week, buddy, when we're getting ready for 105 miles an hour of gas.
That's right. That's right. Can't wait.
All right, man. Take care, buddy.
All right, bud.